To attempt the Gilded Rose kata coding challenge, and I did have a go at this yesterday, and I did get it working. I'm not 100% happy with my implementation, but I think it was better than you're given. So there are a series of requirements, and the requirements lay out exactly what the code is supposed to do, and there are some really good tests. And the tests, we're going to leave those alone. And so you're supposed to implement this new feature, and at the moment the tests will pass if I just run them all, because they are testing the existing code against the existing known features. But the idea is that I can switch in and say, well, actually I've got this new test data which will make use of the new feature and expect the new feature to be implemented. And at the moment, before I've done any actual coding, that is not going to work. But the code, so that's all fine. This item class, we're supposed to leave that alone, and this is the sort of main body of it, and we're also supposed to leave that list alone, and I think this function needs to stay, or so basically the tests don't need changing to update how the code is called. But this is the code you're given to modify, and it has a huge amount of nested ifs, repeated constants, and it's just very tricky, and that is where the challenge of this comes from. And so let's have a quick look at the requirements. So you're a small inn, you have some items on your shelf, they degrade in quality as they approach their sell by date, and the function we have to write updates, runs across all the items every day to update what they believe the quality should be, and update the number of days left to the sell by date. And so there are some rules. So all items have that number of days left to sell and the quality value. And at the end of each day, we should lower the quality by 1 and the sell-in by 1. Once the sell-in is lower than 0, the quality degrades twice as fast. The quality of an item is never negative, and it's never more than 50. But then, and here are some special items. So aged Brie actually goes up in quality as it gets older. Sulphurous, being a legendary item, never has to be sold or decreases in quality. Backstage Passes, like aged Brie, they increase in quality, but also they actually increase in quality by 2 when there are only 10 days less. And 3 when there are 5 days or less. But of course, as soon as the concert has happened, the quality drops to 0. And so if we look inside the actual code, you can see that Backstage Passes is really just the start of the name, and then I guess there could be any different types of Backstage Passes. Different concerts could come after that. Aged Brie is that's just the name of it. Sulphurous, they say just sulphurous in the requirements, but it has this slightly extra thing on it, so I'm gonna kind of assume that if it starts with sulphurous, that it's subject to those different rules. So then what we have to do, and this is all implemented, this works. So we have to add the capability. If it's a conjured item, it needs to degrade in quality twice as fast as a normal item, and that's basically it. So if we look in the new features test data, there is a conjured manna cake, and we expect it to, as a day goes by, the quality goes from 22 to 20. It's degrading twice as fast, and then, but of course, once you get to negative, it needs to degrade twice as fast again. So you'd go from 16 to 12, so that's decrementing by 4 at that point. Now I took a look at this and just thought, I'm not even going to try and modify this. Some people would just modify this, and that's absolutely fine. I'm actually going to write a sort of object-oriented implementation of this. So I'm going to go in and make a new package called updaters, because what I feel like we have here is a class called item. An item updater is a class that can update an individual item, and it knows it's going to do the updating. So we'll have a load of these updaters, and in our Gilded Rose code, what I want to do is give each item to an updater, and that updater will do its work on the item. The reason I'm doing that is because the behavior for aged Brie is kind of sprinkled across here and intermingled with the behavior for the other items, whereas it'd be nicer if there was a function that just knew how to deal with aged Brie and it did its job. So item updater is going to implement the standard rules, and the standard rules are just that an item.quality is going to go down by 1. Actually, it's Java in it, so we can just do that. And the item.selling is going to go down by 1. And then there was another thing, wasn't there, about once the selling is lower than 0, the quality degrades twice as fast. Now, one of the things I wasn't sure about is which should I decrement first, right? Because if I decrement the quality first, like the selling first, it will go negative like kind of 1 earlier, and then we do the quality stuff. So it's trying to figure that out really. So if we look at the test data for one that goes negative, like a normal item really, we just need a normal. Actually, are there any normal items? They're all exceptional, aren't they? There isn't just like a normal one. Oh, elixir of the mongoose. That perhaps is the normal item. There we go. So selling gets to 3, 5, 2 goes to 4, 1, 3, 0, 2. Oh, it doesn't go to negative 1. All right, we'll go to well, the conjured manna cake. Oh, that'll show us, won't it? So the conjured manna cake, when it goes to 0, it's still only degrading by 1. When it goes to negative 1, oh yeah, this is the existing test data, right? So it's going to go. So it is just degrading by 1 each time. When it goes to negative 1, so I think we update the sell-in first. It looks like we update the sell-in first, because here, it's saying it's going from 19. At the point at which it goes to 0, it's still just going down by 1. Then it's going to go down to -1 and go, okay, so now I need to grade twice as fast. So I think that's kind of the rule there. So then if the item.selling is less than 0, else item.quality. Actually, I'm going to do negative equals 1 instead of that. So it's going to go down by 2 each time. So our standard item updater is going to behave like this. So I'm going to add a test for that. So a new package for updaters, and I can probably just generate the test, can't I? Yeah, there we go. What's it going to do? Oh, lovely. There we go. So at test, has it put it in the right place? Yes, it has. Great. That's good. So I need an item. So item fuzzy socks with. I'm using too much JavaScript recently, but only double quotes are going to cut the mustard here. What do I need? It's the sell-in, then the quality. So if the sell-in, sell it in 10 days, and the quality is, I don't know, 25, that's fine. And then we need an item updater. New item updater, so just a very standard one. So given those, when the updater calls on update item, then the equals, we'd expect the sell-in to be 9, and we'd expect the quality to be 24. It's just going down by 1 each time there. So that's the standard test for, that's like for normal conditions. I'll just run that. Okay, good. And then we need to test that. No, I've not done the red-green refactor. I've just kind of implemented it and it works. But public void degrades twice as fast when negative. Now what I think I'm going to do here is actually have a couple of stages to the test. So we'll put the cell in at 1, expect the cell in to be 0, and the quality to be 24. That's fine. And then I'm actually going to do it again within the same test and expect it to go to -1, and then it should now be degrading twice as fast, so it should go down to 22. So if we run that one now. Okay, cool. So that's for normal items. So now I think we need one for aged Brie. And what I think I'm going to do this slightly differently to what I did before. I'm actually going to make an interface, which is going to be item updater. And the interface, and then we'll just have different ones for there we go. So that's what this is always public, that's fine. And we'll say that this implements that interface, which obviously it does. There we go. Just to be clear, that's what's happening. So that should all just work the same. Okay, cool. So now I think we probably need to start looking at these special cases. So aged Brie, let's do, and I'm just going to call it aged Brie item updater, and it's going to implement the item updater interface. And then let's get IntelliJ to do all the work for us. So this actually increases in quality, doesn't it? Now there's a little bit of duplication here, but it's easy to tie myself in knots. So the selling goes down. What does aged Brie do when the selling gets to 0? Let's just check that there's a test for that. So the test data, we look for the aged Brie. It goes up twice as fast. Yeah, okay, fine. It goes up twice as fast. So instead of, it's just going to be plus equals, basically the same kind of thing. So the selling comes down. Once it gets negative, it goes up by 2 each time. Yeah, that's definitely what's happening, isn't it? Yep, that's definitely what's happening. So we just need another test, very similar. So this is going to be the aged Brie item updater test. And we're going to use the aged Brie item updater. And I mean, it doesn't matter that whether the item is actually called aged Brie, because we're passing it to that item updater. Selecting the right item updater later on will be something it'll be another function we write essentially. In fact, we could start working on that after we've got this working. So if I have aged Brie with a sell-in of 10 and a quality of 25, I now expect the sell-in will still go down, but the quality will go up. And as we cross the boundary, I expect the quality to go up by 1, but then start going up by 2. Let's run all the updated tests, given that that's all the new stuff. Okay, it's looking good. So we've got our aged Brie item updater and our item updater. So I think now we kind of need a item updater factory where we give it an item and it gives us the right updater. So I'm going to make a new class called item updater factory. Not really factory, is a sort of supplier. Well, we'll just go with factory. And so the good thing is that an item updater doesn't hold a reference to the item. So we can use the same item updater for lots of different items, and because there's no state in here. It's really just, have I spelled something wrong? No, that looks really weird, doesn't it? There's no state in here. It's really just a functional interface. If this was TypeScript, I wouldn't even bother with classes. But so the factory is going to return, and I don't think there's any need to have an interface here. It's going to return an item updater get updater for the appropriate item, and so the only ones we've tackled so far is if the item.name equals aged Brie, Otherwise, we're returning a normal one. Now, I think in this factory, I will just hold an instance of each of the different subclasses that we've got. So I'm going to have a aged Brie item updater and a we'll just call it item updater. It's kind of the default item updater, really, isn't it? Probably should. So that's fine. And then let's make our constructor. Just create those instances. And the default item map is new. Now, I'm not going to do a switch case statement on the name because some of the later ones use starts with and stuff like this. It's a bit more complicated, so I'm going to stick with if else's here. So I'm going to return the aged Brie one if it's aged Brie, and I'm going to return the default one if it's the default one. And then I think probably to test this, rather than do like an instance of type of test, I think I might replicate this test, but from factory. So instead of we're going to make our new factory item updater factory. New item updater factory, and just ask for it. Get the updater with item. I suppose we could assert. Is there an instance of assert true? The updater is an instance of aged Brie item updater. I suppose there's no harm in asserting that, but really we just want it to behave like one. So that's that one, and then I'll do the same thing with this. And whilst it is tempting to factorize the test code, it's nice to have it. It's easy to get carried away with that kind of thing. So so we're going to make a factory, same thing here, but and this one's going to be from factory. Factory dot get updater for our item. And then we'll make the same assertion about the instance. I feel like that should be doable. We'll only need to assert that once. Let's just see if all that's okay. Okay, I'm not seeing. Oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's hang on. Not seeing the degrade twice as fast. Test run. We're not seeing that, are we? Let's just run that one on its own. See if there's some problem with that. What's the matter with that? No tests found for what? Public void. Oh, extend test case. I don't know if this is. You don't normally have to do that, do you? And you just do. I don't want to do. Oh, we let the thing. We let IntelliJ generate this for us, didn't we? So let's get rid of. It's not normally how I do it, to be honest. Okay, let's try again. Okay, so then if I now run all of them in the updaters. There we go, that's better. It's got them all now. Cool. Just make sure they're all like that, actually. So get rid of extending test case. Oh, it must be using that slightly different JUnit thing. I'm not sure what's happened there. Oh, there's JUnit.framework and org.JUnit, and I think org.JUnit is the one I normally want. Right, let's try again. All right, that looks a bit better. So we've got our aged Brie item update. I guess we need to make sure that our item updater uses the same when we ask for it from a factory. So that's going to be. We'll just steal that bit from up here. Get updater from the item. Oh yeah, we weren't coding to the interface in this test. That's fine. Actually, the aged Brie, when it's not a factory one, let's just be like explicit here, and we're coding the. Oh no, we're coding to the interface in these other tests, and they do look sufficiently different, so I think that's fine. So that should be the same. And then this test here, let's do the same thing. So it's going to be the item updater, and I'm going to ask for it from the factory. Get updater item from factory. Right, let's just check everything's cool. Nice. Right, so now let's take care of some of these other cases. So the legendary items are pretty simple. So this is the sulfurous. Never has to be sold or decrease in quality. I did just we need to do assert true for that updater instance of item updater. Just need to add that. Yeah, the sulfurous one. Let's do that now. So we're going to make a new. So it says it's a legendary item, which is what gives it those properties. So I'm going to call it legendary item updater, and it's going to implement item updater. Nope, I don't want to do that. Override. Oh, implement methods. Yeah. Okay, great. So this was pretty simple, wasn't it? It just never has to be sold or decrease in quality. So by never having to be sold, I believe that means that the selling is just straight up 0 and the quality doesn't move. So I think it's... We just don't do anything to it, do we? I don't think we have to force the selling to be 0 either. Sulfurous. No, it just leaves it alone. It just doesn't do anything to it. So that is a bit of an odd thing to implement, isn't it? Like one that literally does nothing. Never has to be... I'm going to leave it like that. I'll leave it like this. So never has to be sold. Does not degrade. So I think that's fine. So then this is going to be an amazing test. So this is going to be legendary item updater test updates item correctly. And then we want the sort of from factory version as well. So obviously in this test it doesn't really matter what it's called, but I'm going to have it as sulfurous. And let's get the one from the test data, that name, because it's got all that other stuff. Hand of Ragnaros. Yeah, sure. Okay. Right, so this is legendary item updater. When the updater updates should have, yeah, called the class the same thing as the test. Don't want to be doing that, do we? There we go. Update item, then we expect this, well, the selling's just going to stay where it is, and the quality is going to stay where it is. Okay, great. We'll just check those. Okay, cool. So let's have a look at what other special cases have we got. Oh, we need to make our factory know how to deal with that. So this is where we're going to do else item.name.starts. We're going to do starts with, just because the specification doesn't have all the rest of the nonsense on the name, but this one does. So not a statement. If. Oh, else if, yeah. So we need a legendary item updater, which we'll just create in the constructor, and there we go. Okay, and then I guess we need another instance of this that uses the factory and is coded to the interface. True. The updater is an instance of legendary item updater. We're going to ask get updater for that item from factory. Let's check everything's still all right. Okay, great. So there were more special cases. Oh, backstage passes. Right, so this one's is a bit more complicated. Now, when I did this before, I sort of made this whole thing generic where you could give it different thresholds, like this object, different thresholds. But I think maybe rather than overcooking it like that, I'm actually going to just implement to these values here, rather than go generic too early. So this is a backstage pass item updater, and it's going to implement item updater, implement methods. Yeah, there we go. So this one is where it gets. This is where we have to be really careful about the whether we do the sell-in first in terms of doing the calculation. So let's kind of look at the test data. So the backstage pass here yes, they have a maximum quality of 50. We have to take care of that as well, don't we? That's fine. Okay, so see this test data, I'm sure it leaves some gaps in terms of what it's covering, because when it gets to less than 10 days of sell-in value, well, what is it? The threshold. Let's copy this into here, so we know what we're doing. Increasing quality as the sell-in value approaches. Quality increases by 2 when there are 10 days or less, and 3 when there are 5 days or less. Right, so the item, so the sell-in is kind of always going down, isn't it, really? So if the item.selling is when there are 10 days or less, 3 when there are 5 days or less. So if it's less than or equal to 5, then the item.quality is increases by 2 or less, increases by 3. Else if the item.selling is less than or equal to 10 days left, then the item.quality is going to go up by 2. Otherwise, item.quality is just going up by 1. So I think that will give us our thresholds. So then let's make our test. Backstage pass item updater test. So there's quite a lot more test cases here. Public void distant concert updates appropriately. So given we have the item backstage passes to, I don't know, news concert or something, with a sell-in, which way round it is, sell-in, then it's quality. So if I need to sell it in 20 days and the current quality is 15, then I'm going to get my backstage pass item updater. And when I give the updater the item, I then expect assert equals, the sell-in should be 19 and the selling, and let's get the import sorted. Cert equals, the quality should be 16, right? Because it's set well out of the funny windows. Actually, there was something else I didn't implement in the Backstage Pass one, which is when the selling goes negative, the quality is 0. But let's get the test done first. So that's concert, distant concert, soon concert. I don't know, whatever, right? So the selling is going to be 11 days. We're going to expect the selling to go to 10. The quality still just going to 16, but what we'll do several stages just to cross that boundary. So when we update it again, it's now going to go to 9. Actually, no, the selling is going to be 12. Make it go down to 11, 16, then it's going to go to 10, and now it's going to go twice as fast. So I think it will be 18, and we'll do it again. And it's now going to go to 9 days, and it's increasing, yeah, twice as fast. So that's when a concert is soon, which is that like first window when it starts going up quicker. And then 5 days was the other one, wasn't it? So if we start off, so let's call this one imminent. So the selling is going to be, let's say 6. We're going to expect it, let's say 7 actually. I think we stayed like one shy of it. It's going to go to 6 with a quality of 16. Then 5, and now it's going to start going quicker. And then 4, and it's still going quicker. And then the other one is that when it goes to negative, the quality just needs to go to 0. So past concert updates appropriately. So the selling is going to be 1. The quality is going to be like 15. When I first call it, it's going to go to 0. Oh, the selling will go to 0. And the quality will go to 17 because I think oh no, it's got to go up by 3, hasn't it? Hang on. When it's imminent, it's going up by 3. So 16, then 19, then 22. It's still going up by 3, like on that last day. So I think that will be 18. But if we do it again, the selling needs to go to -1, and the quality just hard smashes to 0. So if I run all of those, I'm expecting this one to fail because I don't think we actually did this. So the past concert, yeah, is not updating properly. Else if item.selLin is less than 0, then the item.quality is 0. It's just gone. It's always false. Why does it say that? It's always false. If it's less than or equal to 5. Oh yeah, this has got to be first. This has got to be first. So if it's gone negative, yeah, because otherwise you've already. If it was, yeah, that's fine. God, good old IntelliJ. But we've got another one failing there, so that we'll need looking at. Imminent concert updates. Well, we did fiddle those numbers a bit quick, didn't we? So maybe that didn't work. Oh, sorry, yeah. So when it's from 15, we're still in that. We're in that close window. So actually, it should have gone to 17. It's going up by 2, then going up by 3. That was it. So it's going. This first, like when we cross the boundary from the first window to the second window, it should have been going down by 2, and then to be going down by 3. Okay, so that looks okay now. Let's get the factory working with our Backstage Pass system. So final, so Backstage Pass item updater. Backstage Pass item updater. It does occur to me actually that this duplicating of the tests is about to get out of hand because we've got too many of them. And actually, I'm going to make a separate test class, which is the factory. So this is the item updater factory test public void creates default updater, and we'll just get like oh, it's this guy really, isn't it? So it's given that. Well, actually, this is the when, isn't it? This is the thing we're asserting, and then we just want that to be true. When it's that, then we expect this to be the case. And so the item updated tests, I think we'll get rid of the from factory versions, because if we've already proven it's going to return the right one here, and we've proven here that that particular class will behave as we want, I feel like we've covered all the bases there. So then the aged Brie, we'll do the same thing. Just get rid of the factory tests entirely. We'll cut one of them so we can dump it in here. We just reshuffle things a little bit because we're not actually going to... Yeah, we do want that, but the when is applies to the getting at the updater. That's the thing under test. And then we're not actually going to update the item, are we? We're not bothered with that. Legendary item updater, so we'll do the same thing. Just cut one of those. And our factory test for, actually we need to rename this, creates aged Brie updater. This one's going to be creates legendary updater, and the when is when I do that, and then I'm not interested in updating the item. The Backstage Pass one. Oh yeah, and then this is the one I got to where I thought actually we've just gone too far here. So now test, so creates Backstage Pass updater, and this is very similar, but it's going to be back. So let's get the text correct from our test data. We'll get this one. Backstage Passes. I'm just going to look for Backstage Passes as the for the implementation of this. So in our factory test, if I give it that, I expect it to be a Backstage Passes item updater when it comes back out. And I think that one will fail because I don't think we've actually implemented it yet. Item update factory stuff, create stuff. That's right, we haven't implemented it yet. So now in our factory, we can do else if item.name.starts with return, and we need, oh, we started it clearly because we've got one here, but Backstage Passes, we'll go with that. Run it all up. Okay, cool. Now there are a couple of rules that I have not implemented, and they might have a bit of an impact on what it's going to work. So let's have a little look. Have we done all the different types of items? So this is, we're not worrying about conjured yet because we're going to implement that once we've got our OO system up and running. So the quality of an item is never more than 50. Now I haven't done anything to make that happen. A legendary item is allowed. Oh, its quality is 80. It just is. Sulfurous is a legendary item, such its quality is 80 and it never alters. So, that's interesting. So I guess the assumption is you're always given 80, not that I'd need to actually set it to 80 here. Set to 80. I'm not going to, because then, and we'll see how the tests run. But we've now got to worry about this idea that they have a maximum of 50. The quality, it has a maximum of 50. What I think we'll do though is integrate the our new OO version of the updaters and into this and see which tests fail, because presumably the tests that fail will be the ones that attempt to show that the quality clips. So we're going to have a new version of this function. I'm just going to call this one old. And now what we're doing is stream of the items for each item. Been doing TypeScript for too long. I'm kind of allergic to old school for loops. Let's get the updater. So the item updater equals. Oh, we need a factory. I don't think there was anything wrong with adding the factory here. So item updater factory. Yeah, call it that. This dot item updater factory equals new item updater factory. So we're going to ask for our item updater factory. Have we not made? Oh, we've made this package private. Well, that's got to be public, otherwise it's not going to be a lot of use. Get the updater for our particular item. Then call upon the item. Have we done the same thing with the? Updater dot update item. Pass it the item. That's going to be it. So this function is just going to, for each item, get the appropriate updater and call upon that updater to do its work. And I think like that's kind of it. So, but we don't think it's going to work because of the clipping to a 50. So we've got to go here. Yeah, there we go. Exactly right. Backstage passes. It's gone to 51, and actually there is a maximum of 50. Now what we could do is look for this expected here to kind of see. Oh, we can't look for it literally like that, can we? But something like. There we go. That's the point at which it tops out. Now this rule applies to all item updaters, doesn't it? Really. So I think what we need to do is probably have a clip function here. So we're going to have a default. So you can have this a default void clip quality item, and if the item dot quality is more than. And I think what we'll have to do here is have a public static. They're all public, aren't they? But static final integer max quality, and it's 50. Actually, I think they're static and final by default because this is an interface, isn't it? So if it goes over that, then the item dot quality, we're just going to set it to that. And in our aged Brie should do this. So clip quality. The Backstage Pass one needs to do this. The legendary item one doesn't need to do anything, and the default one does. I think I'm going to call this, rename this default item updater, because otherwise it looks too much like the interface name. So we'll do that. No, we do not want to change those. Let's not change anything apart from, and then we'll just do this one. Refactor, rename, default item updater test. There we go. Oh, and so the legendary item doesn't do anything like that. The default item updater needs to clip the quality. The Backstage Pass needs to clip the quality. Actually, the default one, it's going down each time, isn't it? So actually, that isn't going to have to bother. It's only the ones where it goes up. So that's your Backstage Passes and your aged Brie. So let's go. Oh, not quite there. So what's up? Arrays differed. Oh, okay. So something about our Backstage Pass one. One of our Backstage Pass ones has not worked. And so, and I think this might be where it's not entirely clear to me, like which order these are done in, the sell-in. Like, do we do the sell-in first? So like if we change that, does the Gilded Rose test then pass? The Gilded Rose test pass, which means we haven't quite understood how the boundary is supposed to operate. So when it goes down to 5 days, it still would have only increased by 2 here. But then when it goes to 4 days, it's now going to go by 3 because it is now less than. And then similarly, this one. So when we got to 11 days, it's gone down up by 1. When When we've gone to 10 days, it's still only going to go up by 1. But now we're at sort of 10 days or less from this point forward. It's going to start going up by 2. So I think that's going to be that. Okay, great. So yeah, this was the main thing I struggled with, was kind of getting the order of when you decrement the cell-in and then the quality. You know, when you then use the cell-in to like make different things going on here. Right. So now we've actually got to implement a new feature, right? So we think we've managed to replace all this stuff with our object-oriented version of it. And all we really did is stood still, but the tests have permitted us to do that. And now we need to implement the new test data. So we'll go into our test and put the new test data in and get the old stuff out. And now when we run it, it should fail because presumably the new test data requires some other stuff going on. And yeah, so it was conjured items. I think they just degraded twice as fast, didn't they? It was just that simple. They just degrade twice as fast. So I think we'll just add a conjured item updater, and it's really just like the same as this one, but with twice as fast. And we could try and sort of harmonize these in a bit, like, you know, have some quality decrement member thing, but I think that this is perfectly easy to understand and not necessarily, I don't know, if we change the rules, the decrement twice as fast, I do wonder, because say I change how fast a base item needs to decrement, I would then need to make sure that this was twice as fast as that. So I think what I'm tempted to do is actually make this a make these things constants, I think. So final integer, default sort of quality degradation, and it's going to be 1. And here it's going to be 2 times that. And then in our conjured items, we can do 4 times that and pull it in. And 2 times that. So this is just twice as fast. So now it will operate twice as fast. Now our item updater, we need our default item updater test. It's going to be very similar. And this is going to be conjured. So we need to write our test. Conjured item updater test. So this is, I could just made them conjured fuzzy socks, couldn't I? Conjured fuzzy socks. Conjured item updater. Conjured item updater equals new conjured item updater. Twice as fast when negative, so we need to do the same thing here. Conjured fuzzy socks. Now, it doesn't matter what the name is in this one because we're hard coding the creation of the updater. But the cell in there, this is now going to be 23, and here it's going to go to 23. And then it's this, when it goes negative, it's then going twice as fast again. So that'll be 19, right? So conjured fuzzy socks, twice as fast when negative. I think we're all good there. Let's just run the test. I've lost track of what I've actually done. Oh, the gilded rose test is still going to fail. That's absolutely fine because we haven't implemented it into the factory thing. So now in our factory, we need our conjured item one, so private final conjured item updater, conjured item updater, and it's another else if item.name starts with conjured, then return that thing instead. So then our factory, we need to assert that it creates the right thing. So if I give it some creates conjured updater, conjured mouse, it should be a conjured item updater. Right, now, the really cool thing is that just by updating the factory, we've now fixed the Gilded Rose, the overall test. because this hasn't had to change. It's just gone, well, I'm going to get the thing from the factory. The factory is the thing that understands that different items have different rules, have different implementations, and so that fixing that thing has then fixed them all. I think that's kind of it. I think that's everything. So let's have a look if there's any scope for refactoring that's actually worth doing. Like the shape of a lot of these functions is quite similar, but each one is very simple to understand. So I'm sort of tempted to leave it. I mean, you could add a comment here just to clarify. Double the speed of the default item updater, and we have tied it to that with this constant, so that's probably good enough rather than having to like call some sort of inherited function, because the inheritance tree is just interface implementations. I've not got too carried away with classes. Yeah, I think I'm going to call it victory at that point.